She didn't make it. They left the SEAL sniper behind. Then she returned, carrying 4 fallen Rangers. Nobody at the base talked about her the way they talked about the other operators. They didn't tell stories about her at dinner, or joke around with her the way teammates usually do. They mostly just watched her, quietly. The way you watch someone who is clearly better at something than you are, and you're not sure how to feel about it. Her name was Elena Vasquez, Chief Petty Officer, U.S. Navy SEAL, Sniper. The only woman on the Joint Task Force stationed in Kandahar Province, Afghanistan, in the fall of 2011. She had been in the military for 8 years by then. 2 full combat deployments. 19 confirmed kills. Her call sign was Ghost, and if you ask the guys she worked with, they'd tell you she earned it the hard way. Not because she was quiet, but because she could disappear into any landscape and come back out of it like she'd never left. The mission briefing happened at 3 in the morning. A CIA officer came in, never gave his name, and put a photograph on the table. High-value target. A bomb network commander, operating out of a fortified compound on a ridge, sitting at over 9,000 feet. The intel was 48 hours old. The window to act was 6 hours. The route in was a goat trail barely wide enough for one person to walk without brushing the cliff wall. Elena sat in the back and listened. She noticed 3 things that nobody else mentioned. The intel was 2 days stale. There was only one way in and one way out, and the team had no dedicated medic. She said something about it. The CIA officer told her the timeline didn't leave room for another option. She didn't push. She just stored it in the back of her mind, the place she kept the things she figured she'd need later. The team moved out before dawn. 6 people total. Elena, 4 Army Rangers, Staff Sergeant Reyes, Sergeant Webb, Sergeant First Class Ibarra, and Private First Class Holt, and a signals intelligence officer named Decker, who would hold at the rally point below. They moved in silence. The mountain didn't make it easy. The trail crumbled in 2 spots. Around 8,000 feet, Holt rolled his ankle on a loose stone but didn't say a word. Elena caught the slight drag in his step and noticed it. She had seen men die from that kind of silence before. The silence of someone who doesn't want to slow the team down. They reached the overwatch position just after 5 in the morning. The compound was 740 meters below, slightly north. Elena got into position. She put her eye to the scope, and the world went still. At 6:11, the target walked out of the compound. She confirmed him through the scope, the scar below his left ear, the satellite phone in his hand, the slight hitch in his walk from an old injury. It was him. She radioed up. The order came back in 7 seconds. Take the shot. She breathed out slowly. The crosswind was running at 12 knots from the left. She made the adjustment. The trigger broke. The shot was good. Close to perfect, actually. But not perfect enough. The man went down but didn't go still. 2 guards dragged him back inside before she could fire again. What happened in the next 90 seconds was the moment everything fell apart. Someone inside that compound had been watching their position. A counter-sniper they had no idea was there. Rounds started hitting the ridge, walking up toward them in short, controlled bursts. The team broke from the overwatch position fast, moving low along the cliff trail back toward the rally point. Elena stayed behind to lay down cover fire, buying them a few seconds to move. Then she counted to 3 and followed. The trail gave out beneath her right foot. A section of the path, already soft from overnight rain, crumbled and dropped her. She fell about 4 feet before she caught a root growing out of the cliff wall. She held on. Her rifle hit a ledge 5 feet below her and stayed there. She was alive, but she wasn't moving anytime soon on her own. Reyes called out to her from 20 meters up the trail. She answered. She was hurt. Possible broken ankle. Needed a hand up. Rounds were still coming. The enemy was moving up from the north. Reyes did the math. The kind of math nobody wants to do out loud. Elena was off the trail, below the cliff edge. Getting to her meant crossing exposed rock face with enemy fire still active. Holt was already compromised. Ibarra was the only one fully mobile. The extraction helicopter had a hard window. Miss it, and the whole team spent the night on that mountain, with no cover and no resupply. There was a pause. A long, awful pause. Then Reyes picked up the radio. He called down to Decker at the rally point and said, "Ghost didn't make it. She's off trail. We are moving to Exfil." He didn't lie, exactly. He just said the thing that made the math work. And then he told his team to move, and they moved. Because that's what soldiers do when the team leader says move. Elena heard every word of it on her personal radio. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She reached down, grabbed her rifle off the ledge below her, pulled it up, checked the action, and started thinking. The first thing she told herself was, 10 seconds. You get 10 seconds to feel it. She counted. She thought about what Reyes had done, what it meant, how it felt. She let herself feel all of it in those 10 seconds. Then the 10 seconds were up, and she was done feeling it. There would be time for that later. Maybe. Right now she needed to move. Her ankle was bad but not broken. She could walk on it if she had to. She had 60 rounds, 2 magazines, a small first aid kit, 3 water packets, and a radio with limited range. The enemy was somewhere below her and to the north. Her team was heading south. She was 9,000 feet above sea level, alone on a cliff ledge, with a 6-hour window before anyone declared her dead or captured. She started picking her way along the cliff face, moving carefully, staying low. That's when she picked up a signal on her radio, an enemy communications frequency she recognized. Her diary was limited but functional. She listened. What she heard stopped her cold. There was a second enemy unit, a flanking team. 12 fighters moving fast through a dry riverbed to cut off the Rangers at the ravine crossing south of the compound. The Rangers didn't know. They were walking straight toward an ambush. She tried reaching Decker at the rally point. Static. She tried Reyes directly. They were below the ridgeline, out of range. She tried the CIA officer's channel. Silence. The woman they had left behind was the only person who knew what was about to happen to the 4 men who left her. She turned south and started running. Not cleanly, not smoothly. She fell twice in the first 500 meters, once hard enough to tear her sleeve open on the rock. She got up both times. Her ankle was screaming at her every step of the way. She didn't listen to it. She had 2 kilometers to cover before that flanking unit reached the crossing, and she had to get there first. At the 2nd kilometer, she picked up the enemy team visually, 12 men moving in 2 columns through the riverbed below. She could see the crossing. She could see the Rangers moving toward it from the south. She did the math in her head, calculated the angles, found a natural position in the boulders above the ravine, got into it, and waited. She had 4 minutes to spare, barely. The Rangers reached the crossing at 8:41 in the morning. Reyes signaled the team to stop. Something felt off to him. He couldn't name it, just a feeling in his gut that made him hold up his fist. Holt was scanning the high ground. Ibarra had the rear. Webb was checking the water level at the crossing. Then a voice came from the rocks above them, calm, steady, familiar. Don't cross. 12 hostiles in the riverbed, 70 meters east. Give me 30 seconds. All 4 men went still. They knew that voice. Elena fired from the boulders, controlled, deliberate, precise. She hit the point element of the flanking unit before they could get into position. The rest of the enemy fighters scattered back into the riverbed and broke contact. The crossing held. When she climbed down from the rocks and stood in front of Reyes on the trail, neither of them said anything right away. What was there to say? The English language doesn't really have a word for that moment, when someone you left for dead is standing in front of you because they chose to come back for you instead of saving themselves. The team reached the rally point at 9:23. The extraction helicopter landed 4 minutes later. Decker stared at Elena like he was seeing a ghost, because as far as he knew, that's what she was. On the flight back, nobody spoke. Elena sat against the cabin wall with her rifle across her knees and her eyes closed. Reyes sat across from her and stared at the middle distance. Holt looked at the floor. The other 2 looked at their hands. The helicopter noise filled in for conversation, and everyone let it. When they landed at the forward operating base and the doors opened, Elena stepped out first. She was limping. Her gear was torn. Her hands were cut. A ground crew sergeant who didn't know what had happened reached out to steady her. She stepped past him carefully and walked to the building on her own 2 feet. Behind her, 4 Rangers climbed out one by one, all of them alive. Not because she was ordered to save them, not because the mission required it, because when she had every reason in the world to save herself and leave them to whatever was coming, she chose not to. The after-action debrief happened at 3 in the afternoon. Elena gave her full account. The enemy comms intercept, the flanking unit, every decision she made from the moment she fell off that trail to the moment she fired from the boulders. She gave it without drama. Flat and clean, like reading a log. At the end of it, the CIA officer asked her why she went back instead of moving to a secondary position and waiting for rescue. She thought about it for a moment. Then she said, "Because there wouldn't have been 4 of them to rescue if I didn't." He asked if she wanted to file a complaint about being left. She said no. He asked if she wanted to be removed from future joint operations with the same Ranger team. She said no again. He asked why. She said, "What Reyes did and what I did are 2 different choices made by 2 different people in the same impossible situation. I made the one I could live with. I figure he's going to spend a long time working out how to live with his." That evening, Reyes found her in the mess hall. He sat down without asking. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. The 3rd time something came out. He said, "I thought you were gone." She said, "I know." He said, "That doesn't make it right." She said, "No, it doesn't." They ate in silence after that. No resolution, no clean ending. Just 2 people sitting with the weight of something that couldn't be undone. And one of them choosing, again, to stay in the room instead of walking away. The official mission report called it a success. The target died from the wound 3 hours after the strike. The flanking unit was disrupted. All personnel extracted without further casualties. Elena Vasquez was put forward for the Silver Star. The citation described extraordinary valor and the interdiction of an enemy element that would have resulted in the loss of Allied forces. It did not mention that she had been left. It did not mention that she came back anyway. Some things don't make it into the official record. They stay with the people who were there. On a cliff ledge at 9,000 feet, in a dry riverbed before sunrise, and in a mess hall at the end of the longest day of 5 people's lives. Elena carried it quietly, the way she did everything. End.